Everyone knows Project Rose, but do you know Project Songbird? Last night, Britney posted this picture of the designer Riccardo Tisci, who had been interviewed in Interview magazine by Donatella Versace. Donatella happened to design Britney's recent wedding dress. It was accompanied by this caption you can pause to read, but of note is that she used the word classified. Anyone who follows Britney's Instagram closely knows that you do not take a lot of what she writes at face value. My personal favorite quote from her book is, "I'm not clueless anymore. Now I'm basically a CIA agent." And I've always asserted that aspects of her case are classified due to the origin of money that was used to invest in Vegas, and this includes her Vegas residency. The reason I freaked out by her caption last night is because the night before I had posited again in my Twitter and Instagram that aspects of Britney's case are classified. Anyone who follows her closely knows that she will reference fans' posts. Project Songbird is the official name of the revamping of Planet Hollywood in preparation for Britney's first Vegas residency, which ended up being her last. I know Project Songbird sounds like some covert operation, but it is really what it is called, and this comes from the final report of the Caesars bankruptcy. It is available on the Wall Street Journal. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get into the weeds about the 2015 Caesars bankruptcy, but know this. Caesars entered bankruptcy court in 2015. They exited in 2017. There was so much financial shenanigans. It's basically the biggest casino heist of all time, and I'm not exaggerating. So what they were doing was selling their own properties to each other. This aspect of the report is talking about how the Project Songbird Planet Hollywood project was undervalued by hundreds of millions. The bankruptcy court assessor estimated that it was undervalued by $437 million to $593 million, right? So we talk a lot about Britney having missing money, but Caesars also had a ton of missing money, and that intersection is of great interest to me. Britney's Vegas residency was announced in September 2013. Reports stated that Britney was contractually obligated by Caesars to stay in her conservatorship. This article has gone missing from the Las Vegas Sun. Britney's manager Larry Rudolph said the Vegas residency started being planned 3 to 5 years before this article was published in 2016. This places the planning starting in 2011. There's no way they started planning in 2013. They were just far more public about teasing that it was going to happen. Britney's residency was at Caesars, which at that time was owned by TPG and Apollo private equity firms. It is considered the worst deal in private equity history when they purchased Caesars because the financial crisis in 2008 hit right when that 2-year deal was closing. They were desperate for cash. Back to 2011, Britney launches her femme fatale era by doing a surprise performance at the Palms Casino Resort, owned by the Maloofs, who were in business with Larry Rudolph and her father. You see, George was also screwed by the financial crisis and partnered with TPG and Leonard Green and Partners because he was saddled with so much debt. They had been expanding right when the financial crisis hit. I cannot stress enough how Nevada and Las Vegas were the hardest hit places in the country. They were underwater. Who did they turn to? So TPG and Apollo were both tied in with dirty Russian money. And this is a very simplified map of how all that relates to Britney and why her case is likely classified. Leon Black was the head of Apollo and was in business with that guy. And we get a lot of distraction from the Schmecks scandals, but at the end of the day, a lot of the huge financial crimes don't get covered, right? And why not? It's because it ties into so many powerful people that may have had no part in the schmecking. Meanwhile, the head of TPG is David Bonderman, who is a close business partner of Irving Azoff, as he states in this podcast, and Azoff is Lou Taylor's mentor. They could guarantee Britney coming to Vegas by 2011. So there was this mass influx of cash from where? You see, Bonderman and Leon Black of TPG and Apollo were on the board of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, who is named in the Mueller investigation report, and the RDIF is considered Putin's slush fund. These big deals are always underway for a long time before they're publicly announced. So I just want to point out that Caesars actually bought Planet Hollywood in 2010. Not only did TPG have a huge interest in Caesars, they also ended up with a majority stake in CAA, which was Britney's talent agency. A lot of moves were being made in 2014 after the established success of Piece of Me. Some people do not know about Lambie's Poet, but he knew a lot about what was going on behind the scenes. And he's saying here that the Vegas residency, Britney would have been out if she was out of the conservatorship. Now, my feeling is because of the oversight of the bankruptcy of Caesars in federal bankruptcy court from 2015 to 2017, that oversight made Caesars no longer be able to mandate she stay in the conservatorship to have a contract with Caesars. This is why I believe they switched to MGM. Apollo and TPG lost $1 billion in equity once they got out of bankruptcy court. Caesars filed for bankruptcy right when the Russian ruble collapsed because of the invasion of Crimea. And immediately they got sued by their creditors, and they did not want to settle with their creditors. But the reason they did, it is because they would have had to turn over their personal financial records to everyone, basically, and they'd become public information. Now, if you've been in business with the Russian dirty money slush fund since 2011, what are those personal financial records going to reveal? Now remember, Britney's Project Songbird is all up in this paragraph with TPG. So at what point would David Bonderman of TPG not know what's going on with Britney and their ability to mandate her working for them at Planet Hollywood? Now remember, Kroll did the Caesars bankruptcy. There's 10,000 documents in that docket. Sharina Body works for Kroll now, and she works for Britney Spears. Not only does Sharina Body work for Kroll and Britney Spears, she's the one who did Paul Manafort's assistant Rick Gates's plea deal in the Russian investigation conducted by Robert Mueller. None of this is an accident. Matthew Rosengart, Britney's attorney, referenced the big lie perpetuated by Jamie Spears in court documents. But does that mean it's not related to the other biggest lie by Donald Trump? The heads of TPG and Apollo are tied into the same global dirty money circuit as Donald Trump. And Rick Gates had his book written by Daphne Barak. And where do we know her from? She cultivated a personal relationship with Britney's ex-husband. That's not an accident that they are trying to discredit Britney at every move because she's got the dirt. Not just on what happened to her, but what's happening in the global crime network that interferes with our national security. And Britney's also hired Kyle Freeney, who was on Mueller's team too. See what I mean? You got to go above and above and above. Don't stop at Jamie Spears. Don't stop at Lou Taylor. They were enabled by a global cartel.